Seconds away on Studio 5. Housefires, the name. What's the meaning behind that?
The place where normal, unguarded, real life happens is a home, right? That's where it needs to burn the brightest.
And then
I am who I am today.
the unmistakable voice of an American Idol.
When I first started singing, it was because my father had put a mic in my hand and told me what to do.
Plus,
You're like gum on a shoe, ain't you?
Give me this.
It's a bit late for target practice now, don't you think?
we're setting the stage for the Oscars in Studio 5, starting now. And welcome to Studio 5. We are counting down your top 5 uplifting entertainment headlines this week. Here's a look at the first 2. Coming in at number 5 this week.
Ashton, you were better looking in the movies. Anyway, well.
Ashton Kutcher is trying to shine a light on sex trafficking.
Maybe one of the greatest honors of my life today is to be here.
Kutcher testified at a Senate hearing in Washington, D.C., not as an actor, but as the co-founder of Thorn, his anti-trafficking foundation and technology company.
I've been on FBI raids where I've seen things that no person should ever see.
And now to number 4.
There are many questions about the history of the Earth. Where did it come from? Why
This new documentary dives into the first book of the Bible, seeking to answer the question, is Genesis history? Del Tackett narrates and hosts the documentary. Is Genesis history?
That is a great question, is it not? Because we're in a big battle over that right now. And I believe the answer is yes.
Is Genesis history hits theaters for its one-night showing Thursday, February 23rd.
I've spent a year asking scientists to help me understand what we see around us.
And that's a look at the first 2. The band Housefires can trace its origin back to 2009 in Atlanta when a few hundred people came together to start a church with a different kind of feeling. Not only did they start a new church, they also started a music movement. We sat down with the lead member of Housefires to talk about fatherhood and their hit song, Good, Good Father. He is this week's Studio 5 interview.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring.
When did you come to music or music come to you? What happened?
Ooh, I like the way you said that. So my dad's a pastor in Atlanta. So I grew up around the church and music, and so faith, music, all of it was kind of the same. We had like a garage band in my neighborhood, and it was just a way to have fun with friends. Music was this vehicle of connection and communion and expression with God that really started to set me free. I remember this young evangelist from the UK came to my dad's church, and I was playing in the youth praise band at the time, and it's a really small and non-denominational church. And afterwards he came up to me and he looked at me and he said, "This message was for you." Wow. And I was like, whatever, right? Yeah. Oh, you're bold. You think it would be like, oh, but it wasn't. It was just kind of like, yeah. And he says, "No, you are going to write songs." And at the time I had not sung. He says, "You're going to use your voice, you're going to sing, and you're going to lead people in worship."
Worthy of every song we could ever sing.
Housefires, the name. What's the meaning behind that?
The place where normal, unguarded, real life happens is a home, right? And that's where you learn patience with your spouse and kindness to your kids, and that's like the real stuff. And so that's where it needs to burn the brightest, right?
One of your more popular songs, Good, Good Father. Did you write that?
I'm one of the writers, yeah.
Oh, I heard 1,000
as I would listen and all these things, you start to notice slightly different threads of like, when you get down to it, this person says God is like this. And this other person will say God is like this. And this other person will say God is like this. So now, which isn't a big deal when you're young, but when I started having kids, and I'm looking at my daughter, Harper Gray, and I'm like, how am I going to explain God to you? How am I going to introduce you to someone who's so transformed my life? What am I going to tell you he's like?
Because you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you.
As we worship to that song in our own community, like we were being healed from things we didn't even know we needed to be healed from, right? We're like all just experiencing just a recalibrating of our hearts again. To see that same thing connect with so many people has been so humbling, so mind-blowing, surprising. But also so encouraging that message is something we can stand on.
You are here on the campus of Regent University, so obviously your music resonates with college students. Why do you think that is?
There seems to be a pull and a lean towards things that aren't presented as perfect and polished, and to have worship sound like worship and expression in music carry that texture. I think that's the reason why it resonates with me. You know, I want my kids to, when we talk about worship, I don't want the first image that they have to be Sunday, big stage, lights, fog, cameras, action. You know what I mean? Like, right. The first thought I want when we talk about worship is just my real life before God.
Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love. Love, love, you're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am.
And Housefires has released 3 live recordings. The latest is called Housefires 3. Still ahead on Studio 5.
I am who I am today because God used every one of my mistakes.
Getting real with an American Idol. And welcome back to Studio 5. We're continuing our countdown of this week's uplifting entertainment news stories. Here are the next 2. Coming in at number 3 this week.
The nominees for the Best Performance by an Actor are Albert Finney in Tom Jones, Sidney Poitier in Lilies of the Field. The winner is Sidney Poitier in Lilies.
The first African-American actor to take home the Oscar for Best Actor turns 90.
Amen. 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 Amen.
The actor and activist celebrated the milestone with friends and family, including his wife, 6 daughters, 8 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren.
Each and every one of us brings along for the ride our own unique gift.
That brings us to number 2.
And 1, 2, 3, Peter Pan, let us free, getting Pop star Britney Spears' Twitter feed has more focus on scripture these days, sharing Bible verses with fans, like this tweet from Psalm 126, and this one from the 6th chapter of Luke. In an interview with V Magazine, Spears answered critics saying, "I have my relationship with God and myself, and that's what matters to me. I really don't care what most people think."
And we will get to number 1 in just a little bit. You know, just the other day, I was feeling down on myself and blaming myself for a lot of mistakes I've made in life. And I happened to hear a song by Fantasia Barrino. It is called "It's Necessary," and it is what is playing in my ear.
I am who I am today because God used my mistakes.
When I first started singing, it was because my father had put a mic in my hand and told me what to do. I realized that that was what I was supposed to do when we were at a service. And the people began to cry and were moved. And this older mother comes up to me and she says, "Baby, you touched me. You are truly anointed for this." And that's when I knew that that's what God had, it was destined for me to sing and bless people through my music.
I am who I am today because God used every one of my mistakes. He worked them for my good, like no one else ever could. Oh yeah, God told me to tell you everything you're going through, it is necessary.
That song was written by Darius Reed, and he is going to re-record it with Fantasia in the coming months. Still ahead on Studio 5.
I fell in love with you because you weren't like anyone else. You're saying you could go to prison.
But I don't know how I'm going to live with myself if I don't stay true to what I believe.
See why this film is a contender for this year's highest honors, the Oscars.
And welcome back to Studio 5 as we continue our countdown. Here's a look at number 1.
And now to number 1.
What do you do after the Oscars? Well, if you're lucky, you go to the Governor's Ball, the official after party of the Academy Awards, and they're already chilling the champagne and caviar for Hollywood royalty.
The countdown to Oscar Gold is in full swing, and it looks like it could be a big night for La La Land, with a record 14 nominations this year.
I got a call back.
What? Come on. For what?
For a TV show. The one that I was telling you about.
From the Golden Globes to the SAG Awards to the Oscars, we are in the middle of award season. In case you missed it, Hacksaw Ridge was nominated for 6 Academy Awards. And right now, we've got your first look.
So how come you don't fight? You think you're better than us?
No.
But what if you was attacked?
Whoa!
Say it like that. Bible says to turn the other cheek, don't it?
Hacksaw Ridge is the heroic true story of Desmond Doss, a military medic who rescued more than 70 men from battle during World War II. And he did it without a single weapon.
Fiction is nowhere near as good as the truth that way. It's you can't make this stuff up. We all wish and hope that we had that kind of strength and conviction and courage, but it's quite clear that only a man like Desmond Doss does.
It just spoke to my heart, and I really dug the story. I was, teardrops on page 94.
Oscar winner Mel Gibson directs the film, his first in 10 years.
Would you call this a companion piece to Braveheart in any way?
Yeah, in a sense, I think it's more evolved in a way, because it's really about love, not war.
I thank God for letting me do my part in this war.
and saving the lives of my fellow men.
Doss, the first conscientious objector to receive the Medal of Honor, is a living story of love for God, his country, and his wife, Dorothy.
I fell in love with you because you weren't like anyone else. You're saying you could go to prison.
But I don't know how I'm going to live with myself if I don't stay true to what I believe.
It's just this unconditional love between them. And I was so drawn to that because the love feels so pure and innocent. And I think it's very different from some of the romances we see these days with our apps and Tinder and Twitter.
I know that you did a lot of research on women during that time period. What did you find out?
I actually did a lot of research, more specifically on Dorothy Schutte. There's hardly any footage of her, but the few things I did see, I saw how she walks with such grace and elegance, and she is a woman of great faith.
Private Doss, you are free to run into the hellfire of battle without a single weapon to protect yourself.
He goes into battle with only his faith in God and his Bible as a weapon. How do you do that?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good question.
So that is the question. And I think it's mysterious. I think it's deeply mysterious. And I don't even know if he knew how he did it. The way I see it and the way I think that Mel framed it for us as a story is that you feel there's no choice. He doesn't actually have a choice in the matter. There's a calling. You know, he asks on top of the ridge when everyone else is retreating. He just pauses and takes a second, as you see in the film, and he asks, what do you want of me? He's tuning into that inner voice, tuning into the voice of his God.
What is it you want of me? I don't understand.
Just discovering that this was a man that lived was a surprise in his entirety.
You're like gum on a shoe, ain't you?
Give me this.
It's a bit late for target practice now, don't you think?
Vince, how would you describe what happened to the relationship between Sergeant Howell and Desmond over the course of their time together?
I think that Sergeant Howell starts from a place of his own faith and conviction. So I think I recognize my character very early, that he is authentic, but it is an absolute collision with my belief system. We are going to war. There is not a good fit for someone who is not prepared to carry a gun or defend his brothers in the foxholes. I think as we go on, what I love about our relationship, which I think is different than any of the others, is there's a sense of humor and a teasing that takes place where you realize that there's no apology needed. We kind of got who each other was, and we're just both looking at each other in these kind of oddity ways and enjoying each other. But there is something, without giving too much away, in that moment when he comes for me, where we both kind of protect the other.
Right.
You know, my philosophies does sort of save him, and his philosophies have saved me, and there is a beauty in that yin and yang that come together.
Hacksaw Ridge is available right now on DVD and for digital download. Still to come here on Studio 5.
When I read the script for Scandal, it was all there on the page.
The star of Scandal sets us up for a powerful final word.
Don't give in to fear. Continue to define your unique path in faith and with the experience of the accomplished adventurer that you are.
We have wrapped the countdown, and we are just about out of time for this edition of Studio 5. So let's take a look ahead to what's coming up next week.
Studio 5 is the only television crew on set for the filming of the new movie, The Shack.
You're the Almighty God, right? You know everything. You're everywhere, all at once. You have limitless power. Yet somehow, you let my little girl die.
You play God. What is it about the role, besides being God, that made you want to do it?
Well, there is a beautiful journey that you have to take that I realize now when you take on a role, well, the role of God. And it just shows you just how human you are.
You abandoned her.
I never left her.
If you are who you say you are, Where were you when I needed you?
Son, when all you see is your pain, you lose sight of me.
And you can look forward to that story next week. Time now to get ready for the final word. And here to set us up is Kerry Washington.
I think more young people need to know that like when you have that thought that you're not enough, that's based on a lie that somebody said to you or a lie that somebody did to you. Like somebody said or did something to you to make you feel like you're not enough. And that's not true. That you are everything that you need to be, that you have everything that you need to be the person that you're meant to be and to be the best version of who you're meant to be. It may mean that you have to work really hard, and it may mean that you have to ask for help, but you are perfectly blessed. You know, you are exactly who you're supposed to be joyful in this life. So don't be afraid to work hard and don't be afraid to ask for help so you can get there, because that's your truth.
Those are words from Kerry Washington in an interview with AOL Build. And when I hear those words, I immediately think of something my aunt used to say to me when I was a kid and down on myself. She would remind me all the time, God don't make no junk. And I say that to you because you are indeed everything you need to be. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And that is the final word for this edition of Studio 5. Until next time, reach out and touch me at Ephraim Graham on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And then come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye.